All right. Well, it is 12 noon Pacific time. I am live, I believe. It looks like it is. I am brand new to this live detail, so bear with me as I figure out all the bells and whistles. And I am hoping that we are recording, but at a minimum, I have an audio being recorded in the background just in case. Um, so I have so many questions that have come in, and I will try to do the best I can across all of them. And I believe there's a way of sharing my screen, but this is a very new interface for me versus Zoom. And it may be in the future. Hello. Hi, Joe. Thanks for joining. Or Tori. Yeah, Tori, hello. And so I'm just going to talk about some technical stuff for the first few minutes before we jump into everything because I want to make sure more people can join and get started. So, and I'm kind of like, this is new. And so please bear with me. I have 17 pages worth of questions. So I'm not going to be able to cover all of them, but I will cover some of the main ones to kind of address some, the bigger questions, I think. And I'm also going to address some of the uh, types of questions that get asked and what astrology can answer based on the astrology that I do. There are various forms of astrology, and we'll talk about that as well. And also, what other esoteric arts might be suitable for the questions that are being asked, because there are so many. So, anyway, where's everybody coming from? Let me see if I can see in the chat. This is a new thing to be kind of looking at live as we go. I can see 2 have popped in, so maybe we only have a few, but it looks like there's 26 that have joined us, I think. So where are you from? That'll get us started, like kind of seeing where everybody's from, just as we're building some time here. Hi, Lynn. Thanks for joining. The way my screen is, I'm going to have to play with this a little bit. It's making it interesting to see the chat pop out because it cuts my chat down. Oh, here we go. I'm going to use my cell phone to watch the chat because that's easier because it slices it in half on my computer. So bear with me with my glasses. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Tori. Anne, Canada, East Coast. Okay, Brittany. Vancouver, Cheshire. I hope I said that right, Joe. I will be in England next year. I can't wait to go. Laura from Delaware. Hello. Hello. Who else we got on here? Belle Evangeline from the Netherlands. Oh, wow. Welcome. Love to see this. Oh, goodness. Ms. Lopez. How do you say your first name in New York? Yaritza? Yaritza? Hope I said that right. Lorena from Cali, Colombia. Cali, Colombia. I hope I said that right. Bombshell Baby 22 from Illinois in the cornfields. Welcome, everyone. And Sil from the Bay Area. Welcome. Eliza. Durham, England. All right. Austria. I will also be in Austria in 2026. Simone. Let's see here. Necessary Makeup. Hi from Los Angeles. And Sandra from France. Yanni from Michigan. Wow. Okay, good. Got quite a few of you in here. So this is great. So bear with me as I, I'll come back to the chat. It's a lot to like manage all the things, being new to this. And the thing about being, I'm sure you're aware of, some people are very savvy with the tech. Some of us take a little bit of time to get used to it. And then that's the point of these lives at first, is for me to practice it and get the skill down, because it takes a little bit for me to build a skill. And then I have it. It takes me a minute, but and at the same time having all the astrology as well so it's a lot to bring in on the mind. So And when I'm usually doing the Bridgerton or just videos in general, I usually, when I go to record, I have no interruptions from my family, first of all, because I try to record when they're not home. And the other thing is I usually record in a stream of thought. And maybe you notice that in my I have very long videos. And so it's important to kind of understand like the process, like when you're doing a reading for people, you have a little bit of prep time, and then you go into kind of what flows from what you did in the prep. Because I have to sit with the chart almost. I like to sit when I'm doing a deep dive reading for about 12 hours. And the reason I do that is because I let additional information from the other, from the symbols that sit in my unconscious mind. And then once it kind of clicks in, it's almost like a puzzle for me. It kind of clicks in, and every reader is different. So it's important to, keep that in mind. So the live is a very new kind of environment because I've got different tools to help record it. And I'm hoping to goodness it records the video as well. It says live and it says in the studio. So I'm assuming that it's all doing that. At a minimum, I have the audio being backed up from on my computer, so I can have that just in case. Okay. I am not sure exactly how to share my screen out to show charts. So it may be that I'm answering questions with just my head, the talking head, as they say. So yeah. So just keep that in mind. And I had a couple of questions come in last night. I hope I got everybody's, but again, there's so many that I'm going to have to limit some of what I ask or what I can answer at this particular time. I will target around 2 hours because then it will be like, how do I, that's going to be a lot of a video. And I'll try to do these, maybe I'll try once a month, but maybe it's more like twice a month to get the practice in. I don't know. We will see. I tried to open up with StreamYard. It's a software that helps go live, but again, I got turned around in terms of the requesting of the key information, and I'm not sure if that's working yet. So based on how they plug and play it. So still learning. Okay. So we are about 8 minutes in. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting through some of these questions. Let me just check the chat really quick before I dive in. So if you have any last minutes, we have more coming in. Yeah, sure, we are okay here so far. Okay, so one of the questions, one of the things that people pointed out is please record the live. So I'm trying to record the live. So I'll try to that. And one of the first questions, I'm going to just mention the person's name or like their tag on the thing so that you know that I'm answering your question or not. And if I don't get to your question, please keep in mind that I'll try in some way to, because maybe some of the questions are similar and it answers your question. So just keep that in mind, okay? So I think it's Johan Chicone 9835. You asked me to record the live because some people can't attend live, and so I'm going to try to do that because that's the, that I know that a lot of people can't join exactly when something is because that's just the way of nature of life. So their question was, will Luke and Nicola do other projects together after Bridgerton? Okay, so there's a lot of things with that question. And from astrology standpoint, because there's two ways that I would look at that question. With astrology, that we can see they have so many points in their charts that connect on the Saturn, and Saturn is related to kind of the work that you do. And I know that Luke Newton's North Node is connected to Nicola's Saturn in Sagittarius. And so to me, that there is the element of maybe absolutely doing other shows together, because that would be how that Saturn connection from Nicola to Luke would play out. That's one. Not only that, I mean, other folks in the industry can see that they have this chemistry and will probably try to leverage that in future projects. So from the Saturn within Nicola's chart and the North Node in Luke's chart, I would answer yes. How many? That's I don't know. That count exactly, but because they're both Saturn ruled, I would say that there's going to be an opportunity similar to what, like, we definitely know that they're going to be in more seasons because of the importance of their roles of Colin and Penelope and Bridgerton. So we know that they're going to be through, as long as Bridgerton will play those people, they will be tied to it in some way because of the importance of their roles in the other storylines. And also, I would argue that they have made connections with people like Jennifer Lopez, and what she might create in a rom-com. I really think that there's a potential there because of the way they connected. And so that is a high probability. And I haven't looked especially at Jennifer Lopez's astrology, but she has a passion, a real passion for Bridgerton based on, I think, a recent birthday or something. I don't follow celebrities 100%. I just, get little bits here and there based on my own interests and things like that. So I'm not deep everywhere. But that's important to kind of keep in mind. So I think there, but I think also there is a huge interest in Nicola, and there is a potential that Luke may audition for things that she may say, hey, check this out, you should try. I have a feeling there might be some future nudges on that, because even if we're just looking at the foundation of them as friends, very, very close friends, if not even more, and we'll discuss that as we go on here. But it's more that friends take care of friends, and they want to make sure that, hey, did you see this? And and if there's something of interest that would be a compelling script, it would be more that there's a really great, compelling script for the character attributes that are in the characters of whatever, that there might be a nudge from Nicola if she is selected for something, and the auditions. But I would see if they're going after stuff together, there might be something that they purposely go after together. So, but there are more people involved in making those decisions behind the scenes about who gets selected in those auditions. But there are sometimes I've seen in the industry where parts are made for certain actors, and so I think that is very likely to be the case because of the just the economics behind it. They know that Nicola and Luke together make money, and so there's that, right? So we can make that argument. So absolutely yes on that one. Let's see here. Tori says, my thinking equal, perhaps a production company together. Equal. Oh, yeah, like if a production. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I agree. Yes. Okay. Some of the questions, just make sure I get them. Okay, when you're popping in here on the chat. Okay, so my next one, I don't really need to bring up the charts, I guess. Let me know if not seeing the charts is an issue, because it may be important for me in the future about how I go about this. If you prefer seeing a chart, let me know in the chat. Do you prefer seeing a chart when I'm talking to something? Maybe it doesn't matter. Please let me know. There might be a delay on my live chat. Yeah, there is. Hold on a second. Yeah, there's a tiny bit of a delay there. Yes, you prefer seeing the charts. Okay, let me see if I can even share. I don't know how to share a chart on here. I don't have a share button on the live that I can see at the moment. Let me just try one thing here. Hold on a second. I just don't want to lose the live while I'm on it. Okay. I don't know exactly how to share my screen. Let me see if this TV offers. Stream. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure. It's not showing me a way that I can share a screen. I'm looking. Oops. Goodness, it's dangerous to play with buttons because I feel like I'm gonna lose my screen. Okay. I'm going to have to see if there's another way. It might be that I have to go through a Zoom to the live that way to share screen, because I know that I can share from there pretty easily. But I honestly am not seeing on my screen through the studio how to share my screen, honestly. So we're going to have to go through it this way. So, I don't see, it gave me a little pop-up, but I don't see it now. So my apologies. I'm figuring this out as I go. And I'm going from the beginner detail from the studio, and it's not giving me, let me see if there's a pop out. It's not show all controls. Let me see. Again, I can't see it. All right, well, I'm going to have to slowly figure this out. So I'm doing the best I can with what I know at this point. I don't see any pop-outs for share screen at all, because I do have some slides that I created the charts. And then I can talk to it. Let's see here. Let's do this. Let's see if I can. Let me try it. Just give me 1 second. Let me see if the studio will let me manage it that way. Oh, here we go. Back in the studio. Wait. What is this? Full screen? How can I share? Give me 1 minute. Let's see here. Oh, I found it. Okay, share screen. Can I share window? Yay, okay. Yay, I think I did it. Yay, I did it. Can you see this one? It might be a little bit of a delay. There we go. Okay. Is it too small? It looks too small. Let me go to the full. Can you still see? Oh, wait, I don't want that. Like that. Wait. 1 second, please. Oh, this is anxiety building, isn't it? Thank you for your patience while I figure out. Okay, it gives me the screen. Give me this link here. And I want to make that bigger. I don't want to take over the whole thing. I'm going to hide this. Trying to make it bigger so you can see it. There we go. Woo! Okay, we did it. My video might be in the way though. Is that too small? Can you see that okay? Can you see that okay? It's so much easier when I'm in a different platform, to be honest. And I don't know if I have my usual highlighter. Let me see. Insert. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have my normal highlighters. So I'm just going to use my arrow. Can you see the arrow okay? I don't know how small it is because some of you are probably on your phones. Okay, you're good. It's all good. Okay, good. Here we go. Okay, so next question. So I already answered the other question on the detail. So I pulled up a chart for Nicola's, and this is just her natal chart, and October 20th. So today at 8 p.m. England time, just so we have kind of a more representation of what the energy is right now. Of course, my video is cool. Okay, it blocks some of it. Okay, next question. I'm going to have to figure out some of these controls, so bear with me, guys. Let's see here. The other question is, I've seen a few people suggest Nicola is headed into some difficult times. Do you have any idea what they might be referring to? This is from Bombshell Baby 2263. And yeah, so transits and progressions are important to consider for this. And I also have solar arcs. So I think based on a couple of things in Nicola's chart is when you have difficult times, you're looking at two or three main things that are going on. Outer planet connections to your angle. So any outer planet. So Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, if they are touching on an angle, absolutely is going to be a transformational period, and it can be really difficult for the person to navigate those things. So yes, and it's all relative. It's relative to what the person, where the person is, what they're going through in their life. But I think it might be what's more the person's question is what kind of challenges, right? Because we can have mental challenges, we can have body challenges, physical things that we're trying to overcome, or we can have spiritual, kind of the mind, body, soul kind of stuff. So your soul is trying to awaken you to something. So there's something to pay attention to when you're getting what I call the rub. So when anyone is going through a difficult period of time, you're looking at, okay, this is what astrology helps us understand is kind of what is the current moment offering me as a part of that rub, and where is it kind of hitting me in my consciousness and how I am in the world, because how I am in the world is going under a transformation from the inside out. And that's why I think it's important to keep repeating, just the as above, so below, as above. So what's going on inside of you is also going on in the heavens, and what's going on in the heavens is also going on inside of you. But you're getting activated by the transits. But deeper, if we go deeper, that's why I even brought up progressions when I was talking about Nicola and Luke in the playlist, in the Bridgerton series that I've been doing on their tour, because it is a rhythm of the planets in real time. That's your planetary transits real time. And then you have your progressions, which are longer chapters devoted to kind of change based on what's going on in these big chapters. And so, and I mentioned on Luke, for example, his progressed Venus at 19 degrees of Aries. So and that being a huge transformation as it was a part of the total solar eclipse, but also in 4 years that will station to go retrograde in his progression. So he will go through a massive transformation with that. And that'll be tied to his career because it's his 10th house. For Nicola, difficult times, I think, are one, the Pluto on her ascendant, so right here. And the Pluto, as you can see, is right now at 29 degrees of Capricorn, because it's finishing its last retrograde into Capricorn, and then it'll move forward in November 19th back into Aquarius and stay there for 20 years. So that, as it goes back to Nicola's ascendant, because remember, I think Nicola's ascendant is probably within the first 0 to 3 degrees of Aquarius based on everything we know so far. And again, I'm going to be rectifying her chart after I'm done with the series. And that Pluto is really making a transformation, and we're all bearing witness to it. And on top of that, with the Pluto approaching her ascendant, it's like within 1 degree. And that's why I think it's maybe even tighter, that her ascendant is probably 1 degree because of all the stuff that she's already been through and landed into the bigger agencies and things like that. So she's got a huge, like, how she presents herself to the world is being transformed. So she's being invited onto a bigger stage, and is far more visible in the world. So she's having to figure out what her projection into the world will be, and that's under great transformation. And so that's one, and that's a stressful period of time, high stress. It requires a lot of work because she's an Aquarian. It has to bring out the Aquarian qualities, which is like her being acutely aware of social media and herself on social media. And she's also having to understand that that's her work. And yet she has also got her personal life. She's got her heritage, her family, and that all kind of comes forward, like who she presents herself as. It continues to bloom in new ways, but there's a little bit of a pressure to like, okay, you've got a bigger stage, and she's already presenting she stands for what her beliefs are really strong, what she stands for. So we've already seen that in the public eye, how she wears the ceasefire pin. Yes, that's all part of the transformation, but I think it's going even higher. So there's much more she will be as a part of, kind of like as we're looking forward, how we present our, values and ethics as we go forward. She's kind of like lead by example. That's, but it's not without its what I call tripwires and difficult things to experience. Okay, so that Pluto is the biggest thing. Okay, additionally, she's had the recent, I would say the nodal return of recent has been challenging in of itself, because it's like the opening of the soul's arc of life. And so there, of course, was recent experiences that opens up past and where you're going, like lean into the future. And so the lean into the future is being direct in her communication, speaking directly into something, the raw energy of Aries, which it can be challenging because she can get tripped up on it. As that Neptune comes to her Mars, she's under another, like she doesn't control Neptune. It's being swept up in something, and then it's going to pull her in another perspective. That when you have an outer planet land on a personal planet like Venus or Mars, it changes how you behave and the pattern that you have. So her pattern that she's had in the past, and so maybe she's under a high like scrutiny on herself, like how she communicates, what she communicates. And we kind of see that, right? But it's more like how she directs her free will is going to feel a little bit off when when Neptune comes to 0 degrees of Aries next year. Okay, so that's another one. So that's another high stress point, high tension. So the challenges of that are very significant for Nicola, and it's around communication. First, I would say perception, the perception of things, then how you communicate, and then your thoughts, because it's perceptions, thoughts, communication, like how you speak, what will you say. But her third house of communications is actually something that's also a bit of a strength, because she has been so direct, but it's how and when you use the directness. There's going to be something that comes on online for us all when Neptune goes into Aries. But for Nicola, she might have a bigger presence in the world about something, because that highlights her, highlights what she's been saying, highlights maybe how she's stood in a social activism way. So it becomes more, she can get swept up in something. Like, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So that can feel like you're out of control on something, because where is it going, and not sure where it's going to land. So that Neptune will come over that Mars 3 times. So there's some kind of surrendering of what she might think it should be, or how she communicates something, and then she has to go back on how she may do something based on trying to figure out what is happening. Right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And a lot of us have like witnessed Nicola's communication style, and also we have got so much joy around the way she communicates with the accents and things like that. She can have another part that she plays that has a lot of to do with that, and how she creates her characters, because she creates her characters like how she structures their voice. I don't know if you've watched that video about how she looks at her characters and how she builds them. But I think that's going to be interesting. And I think one part I know that she's got was a mom whose child is taken to a Middle East country. This is going to be a huge role for her. And I think it will actually play into that Aries energy. And it's going to be an interesting juxtaposition of that storyline and then what's maybe going on in the world around the whole Gaza situation, which she stands for ceasefire. So there might be an interesting social commentary about that and what might, there's a lot of activity on that, and who knows in the next year where that will land. Does it get increased? Do more world leaders get involved based on social, their people, the people of the world pressuring leaders to do something more than that's been done? And Nicola has a huge amount of visibility and how that's getting picked up. So it'd be interesting to see how that. So there is a certain pressure there, but she's also learned something super valuable from her father figure, who's no longer living, but he stood for peace. And so it's kind of she's living part of that in her heart from her father, right? So there's something really beautiful about that. Yeah, so okay, another part that might be stressful in the coming is when the Saturn comes to the Mars, because that's happening also in 25 and 26. They actually make a conjunction, though, in the February of 2026. So they dance around each other very closely, the Saturn and the Neptune, and that can be very challenging. And so, yes, she will have these experiences that are really difficult. Now, because she has the ascendant in Uranus, in the Uranus sign, it's Uranus and Saturn. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. So when Saturn comes to the Mars, it will be sextile. So when something's sextile, it's like the Saturn will be able to be in like connection to her ascendant. So it gives it energy. So it's almost like she gets a gift of the energy pulse from the fire energy. So then she becomes more, the fire part comes out a little bit more. So her fiery part that she might need for that role and for all the commentary that might be related to that role will come online. And so that commentary will happen after her next birthday, I think, in a bigger way, because she turns 38 and she'll go into a third house annual perfection, and Mars will be the Lord of the Year for her in 2025 after her birthday. So I hope that gives you some insight on some of the challenges that she may experience. Another thing that's being coming online right now is Mars by transit is in Cancer, and it'll go back and it'll go up to like I think 4 or 5 of Leo and then go back into Cancer. So it's a very long cycle for Mars. And she's ruled by, not ruled, but her career house, that's the rulership of that. So it has, a lot of work, a lot of emotional stuff going into it. But it has like a revisit of stuff too. So I think what's going to happen is, because how the fandom sees Nicola is through the Scorpio energy, because that's her top of her chart, even though she has the midheaven in, so it's kind of the career stuff, public persona, 10th house, but the midheaven is very much tied to the friends. So it's kind of like you almost have to peel apart the onion to see parts of Nicola's chart in terms of that kind of stuff. And so the Mars having this transit in Leo, dipping up into 7th house and then back down into 6th, is work, coworkers, or what you're in service to. So the work that she may do, the habits that she has, a bit of more wanting to protect, but then it goes up into Leo, so then that's visible. So when Mars peaks up into Leo, there might be some visibility related to Luke, and then it'll come back down and there'll be more stuff behind the scenes, right? But I think in terms of just what she's experiencing, I have to make these a little bit shorter. These questions are going to take me forever. But I hope that answers that question in terms of the timelines that Nicola has on hard energy. She's had a lot of hard energy on her since the Pluto went into Aquarius in 2023. And then it's kind of still dialing it in, going in and over her ascendant. And I think that's the main one, but we have like a couple others that are really, really significant. Another one is the Taurus, where this Uranus is down here in Taurus, and it's kind of tripping over her lot of fortune. You can't quite see that, but Uranus is at 26 of Taurus right now. And it's hitting over kind of unexpected things. So unexpected things that are still kind of in the mix for her as a lot of fortune. Things that so the lot of fortune I kind of look at as more things that happen to you and not that you're directing with your free will. So when a planet like Uranus is kind of conjunct that and making transits over it, she's having things that unexpectedly happen to her, and which she wants to have private. So we've already had that come in New York. That's one of that. Another part of having the leaks happen is all that energy in Pisces. Pisces to me is where the things that happen by leaks. And so with Saturn square her natal Saturn, that's going to create the leaks. So I hope that makes sense in terms of hard energy. So she's going to try to control some of that social media stuff. But she will still have leaks because while Saturn is there, that's kind of that's kind of what happens when that occurs. But it's, she's learning and growing. I mean, every one of us has to learn and grow through the life that we're navigating. And so I hope that makes sense on those parts of her chart, and the transits right now and recently. So let me go to the next, because I can take a lot of time on these questions because there's so much information in each one. Let's see here. Let me scroll through. How's everybody doing? Following along so far? Is this making sense? Yeah, Joe. Yeah, it's going to be, it is game changing for her. Oh, the role that one that's about the Middle East mom who goes and rescues. Yeah, there's something about when I've mentioned this in some of my Bridgerton playlist, about the actors getting a role that helps their chart come to life. And so it's going to be interesting to see that dynamic for the fact that she got that part. And I'm wondering when they're actually going to be doing the filming of that. Maybe it is partly this year, or maybe it kicks off next year, or maybe it releases next year and it shows all that energy. So it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure if anybody knows exactly when that is filming, but if you know, please share. Yeah, potentially Oscar worthy, which then would be a huge paradigm shift. I think she will probably land in being nominated or something like that. Don't you think that's is it Golden Globe? I don't know what the Golden Globes are. The Golden Globes for film as well. I can't remember. Next summer is when she filmed. Yeah, so when that Lord of the Year Mars is in play. Pretty significant, right? Yeah. Which part? It's the mom. It's the part that she plays the mom to a daughter who's abducted by a Middle Eastern father of situation. And I think in one of my details in the Bridgerton playlist, I have it somewhere, where I talk about that past life scenario where she has the let's see here. She has the Mercury, which is the ruler of her fifth house of children. And Mercury being in the 12th house is like you have a lot of great sorrow. An ancient description of that is, or symbolism is, the children scenario could have sorrow around it, or that the paradigm from a co-parenting situation had traditional rules and then it led to some sorrow, right? Like the man taking the child and then the mother not having any power. This was huge. Still is, potentially, but it's, even 100 years ago, women, they didn't own their children. The children, the progeny were for the father, right? So there's a wound around that. And because the Chiron is also in her chart, excuse me, I gotta go over here to get this. See this part of her chart here? This is where that is happening, the Chiron. And of course, with the Jupiter transiting, and right now the Jupiter is almost coming back to that point. But yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting part for her as well. And I think, it's the potential to be the one that kicks her up into being an Oscar nominee, right? Who knows? Maybe she has that. I mean, I kind of wonders like award winning, where does it land that she could possibly be award winning, right? I look for strong placements for that, the year that she would be nominated. So if the film is done, would you say next year, next summer? That's when it's getting filmed. So then it would be a 2026 awards, you know. So 2026, she would be in the fourth house. Is that right? Yes. So that would be Venus, and she has a very powerful Venus in Sagittarius, next to her midheaven, likely. And she has, she would probably be very, very visible. So there's a very strong kind of signature in her chart for that kind of stuff. Make sense? You always see that when they're going in towards the awards, like what's going on in their chart. Yeah, I think many awards and recommendations or commendations. Yeah, very, very serious role. Very, very different kind of role, which will show her acting chops. I think that's great. Do you think all of these people who have been invading their privacies, causing them, oops, just jumped, to stay apart? I don't think they're apart. They won't be seen visibly to get. I think it's, if they want a private life, which we know they're going to want a private life, just like Andrew Garfield wants a private life, unless they have leak stuff. They both have leak potentials in their charts, and so does Andrew Garfield, by the way. And they're even though there's a great desire, so they will do everything to control how they are visible in public at events and everything. For a while, I don't think it's going to be. I mean, it could be a surprise if they came out because of the Uranus in her chart, right? Because she does have the Uranus in her chart, so there can still be the surprises. But I think she's still going to control the narrative. Hold on, these are coming fast. Do you think? Okay, do you think all of these people, yeah, stay apart? Again, I don't think they're apart. They're so I think your question might be, they're being they're the co-leads anymore, but they're actors together working on set. So they're not apart. But I think even behind the scenes, and I still think there is a strong, very strong possibility that Luke was in New York, and I think there were introductions being made at that time by friends, and not being seen. Not Without My Daughter. Okay, Sally Fields. Oh yeah, I saw that many years ago. Not Without My Daughter by Sally Fields. I remember that. Very strong movie. They are not mine. Let's see here. I think they are together. Yeah, Joe, I also think they are. I think they are together also. Hi, Janine. Janine. Oh, goodness, I'm saying that. They are together, Heart. Tori. I think they're together in New York too. Yeah, I was in New York. I don't know if some of you guys saw my commentary on the commentary page. I was in New York at the same time. I was there. I got there before they got there, and then I saw the stuff. I'm like, goodness, it kind of came out of the blue, right? And then all the stuff, and I was like, oh wow, I'm here in New York when they are. And then I stumbled the day that everything hit with all the videos. I stumbled in New York and sprained my ankle, and still not well. So sorry, it's probably a loud laugh. He was in my cards. Oh, Zombie Girls. Yeah, cool. Yeah, not surprising. I mean, I've watched. I think I've watched a couple of your videos too, Zombie Girl. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Janine. If anything, I'd imagine they lean on one another more than ever. Yeah, there's a lot of change going on, and I can't stop smiling. Gosh, you can barely read that. I need my glasses. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. Okay, so let me continue answering questions. We're going to be here forever today. Okay, let's see here. I'm scrolling through my 17 pages. I'm only done a couple questions. My goodness. And if for any reason I might have to record stuff and just make it into a video or something because there's so many. So I said, thank you for giving us the opportunity to ask questions. I want to know if Nicola and Jake are together. Is Nicola with Luke and is Luke with Antonia? A few readers have suggested one or the other. This is from Lynn Price, D5R. That was 9 days ago when she asked me that question. Nicola has, she will, as you can tell from her chart, she has a massive amount of energy in her friend's chart, in her friend zone, in terms of how visible some friends will be. And then there's also, because her significant other, seventh house, is Leo, anybody who is significantly connected to her will be pulled into the private life. Does that make sense? I mean, I hope yeah, so there's going to be so much assumption and trying to figure things out behind the scenes, and unless there is something that they get caught through a leak like that happened to Tom and Zendaya. Unfortunately, they probably didn't want that to be, but maybe they did after they, I don't think they did. I don't think people want to have their private lives all splattered like that onto everything. But I think there's just the pull to be super private. However, here's something that I've kind of thought about since it happened is when Luke posted, I think, the luggage detail and of course all the detective stuff we do, and like looking, but then to have the next day have her on a plane, I just think there's too much that there's no way she didn't see his post and would not logically think, gosh, if I post this right now, what's that gonna do? I just think there's a lot more going on there, and there's a lot of innuendo, and I don't know. There's a lot, and it does the astrology. To me, the astrology for that kind of scenario is kind of like where I put Taylor Swift, and I think Taylor Swift is a Scorpio rising for all the shit that she's had to deal with in the industry, and then taking her power back and then putting it back out there. So it doesn't surprise me that Nicola and Luke won't do similar of like, I'll take this back and I will show you, right? Like, I think that's in the Scorpio part of the chart for the 10th house for Nicola up here, is she'll take that power back and she'll try to control the narrative. Now, that's why I think there's a little bit of hubris in thinking that you can control a hive mind completely. There's dangerous things in the world. She's aware of them. Taylor Swift is aware of them because she canceled the Vienna concert, right? I mean, there's real crap in the world that we have to deal with. I think when the Neptune comes to the Mars, it has an effect on her career in a way that's it's unpredictable in some ways, because Neptune, it's like a surrendering, but it's fire energy. It's a completely different energy. It's like when the United States was born, in the late 1700s and into the early 1800s, and how that was defined. That was like that period of time was kind of like that. So much change going on so fast, and it's just a fire in the situation. But so I'll have to do a longer deep dive video on understanding the history of Neptune. That's 164, 68 year cycle. So Neptune coming into Aries is extraordinary. We have 3 huge events with outer planets just changing it up for us massively in the next couple of years. Pluto is the first one. So Pluto is the one that just completely burns things to the core, to like see all that needs to be transformed. It's like the death of the old is happening. The systems as they were have to be done. So we see all the shadow material in everything, right? And so and we're participating as individuals in the larger spectrum of things, right? So we're participating as a whole. So I think there's some things that are kind of difficult to absolutely predict. We can speak to them archetypally. So she will have a definite profound thing going on in her career. It's interesting that role will be happening when that Neptune is there. Does that make sense? And it'll dip back and forth between the Neptune in Pisces to the Neptune in Aries, and then back and forth, and then finally settle in there forward in February of 2026. So when the Bridgerton comes out again from season 4, and then whatever else she could have just this explosion of stuff happening in 26. And so same with Luke. Let me just go to the chat real quick. Let's see here. Zombie Girl, I saw the deception for the week coming up. I'm not sure. You're talking about the next week in October, you mean? Like the end of October? MD, so I believe they have a great connection and are meant to be in each other's lives, but it is pretty scary when these people go after their friends. And yes, of course. To New York. I'm not sure about that. Right, and she only has the smile for Luke. Janine, yeah, I think there's a unique smile that she has for Luke. That was definitely a for Luke smile. Yeah, Tori. Watching you from France. Oh, thanks, Emma. I think it's Emma, 95. Thank you. Oh, Jake in New York. Oh, yeah. So you were talking about that. Okay. Oh, okay. So you're saying, Zombie Girl, that you think that when Nicola was in New York and having those leaks, that there was a deception on the part of Jake, I think. Not that he can control someone seeing them. He can't either. But maybe it's the perception that he has in his stories. I can't follow all of them as fast as everybody else does. But yeah, maybe that, how he might have played it after the fact. Is that what you're talking? Yeah, Jake in New York. Okay, read the cards. And there was deception. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So your readings in the tarot. Oh, yeah. I haven't pulled Jake, especially because I was trying to completely focus, which is very difficult for me, into finishing the Bridgerton. I finished all the Bridgerton season 3 playlist because that was a lot of information to get out there, and I've got it all recorded. Some of it's in editing. And then this next week I'll do the Aphrodite and the Swans video. But yeah, I would think that there might be something. And so deception. Let's talk about deception for Nicola from a friend as a part of that equation, right? Like Jake is part of the friend group. I think from the friend Louisa. No, is that right? Is it Louisa? What's her name from Dairy Girls? I don't know the other friend. I can't remember her name. Sorry. So he comes from that friend group, right? So that's friend group. So that would be Jupiter. So the Jupiter receiving Saturn recently can be like that. So she's having a difficult challenge. Okay, at least. So yeah, so the difficult challenge by the Saturn square Saturn and then Neptune. Yeah. So there's like an illusion that's been created by a friend, and it doesn't sit well, right? So not that they can't overcome it, because he's kind of young, right? I mean, relative. So he's maybe not making, speaking, I mean, he's learning. Everybody's learning. I give people the benefit. They're trying to learn, navigate things in a big way, because there's narrative created around them too. But if it's used in a not so positive way, she's definitely going to call him out on it. Can tell you that for sure. But does it risk their friendship completely? I don't know. She's, that third house with Aries, this Aries in her chart is going to have that dynamic of like, I'm going to tell you exactly where I see it. And she won't put up with the BS. You know what I mean? She's like, but that's what we love about her. Okay, more questions. Let's see here. I don't know if I can go through all these. Free will. Okay, we talk about free will a lot. Yes, but let me make a thing about free will. Okay, this is an argument in the astrology community. I think, yeah, if one of the biggest questions when somebody enters into an esoteric art is free will and fate. And I seriously, when I first entered into astrology, I was like, oh my gosh, this is just a major question, fate versus free will, right? Because it's huge. It's so huge, that one question. And what I think is, I was on the fence for it for over 2 years. And then I'm like, well, what if, and this is where I left it, what if free will has to still operate within the paradigm of this, the cycle, the map of the life, like the archetypal nature of your chart is going to play. But you get to have choices. You have choice points of how you behave in the energy, right? Like you have a choice point of, okay, having a challenging situation present itself and how you respond. You can like learn from your mistakes that, oh, you know, if I responded in the past, I might have gotten super angry and just blew the thing up. And then over time, you're like, well, that's really, that hurt me in the end, because then I've lost a connection that I really cared about. So then you have to deal with your, so if you take the action to deal with your angry issues, now you've carved out a new way of responding. So that is your action. So you're still going to get triggered. When planets hit the things in your chart, you're still going to get triggered. But you can eventually, you lessen the sting. You by the skill that you build, and by each little thing that you, so it's, so evolution can take a while because it can be very difficult. And but if we don't register when something's on the rub for us, like being disciplined to go do things is Saturn, but Saturn is also karmic. It's like it's coming due, and it's going to show you, well, you know, you didn't put in the work, or it's only going to go to this level because of some other things, right? So there's those kind of things are very true. So when people that are doing readings or astrology, tarot, they, to me, this is my opinion, not just my opinion, it's been my, I guess it would be my opinion, I guess, is astrology, the only way that we can read is because the archetypal nature is at play, and we can say that, okay, this person's going to have challenges when XYZ come in, or these are going to be the more beneficial years because of how things are flowing archetypally. But they still have to take action. I mean, there's some people that were born on the same day and the same time, you know, in Galway, but they're not Nicola. Like, they don't have her soul. They don't have some of the soul lessons that she brings forward. And then she chose in really hard effort in her 20s and 30s to become an actress, and then she made it happen, and then whoo, it explodes. Well, why is that exploding for her? It's because she made a choice to go there and did all the hard work. That's all the Saturn that she devoted in there, and then it pays off, right? So there's something to that. Another person could be doing something else. It could become like a pharmacist, or a pharmacist, like someone who takes your blood, like the way, you know, and have a unique set group of friends. There are things in her chart that if they were somebody else and they were doing, you know, different type of lifestyle and different choices, makes it a little bit different. Does that make sense? It's the soul has something that it wants to navigate. And she has a significant powerhouse of a chart because she has so many planets that are in their domain that makes her stronger. And so when she said that, you know, Luke was going to be the internet boyfriend, it's like, it's going to be you, girl, because your chart is stronger in how it has the ability to manifest. But anybody who is linked up with her has that kind of potential power in how it plays. And that's why Luke Newton is so powerful with Nicola. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense because of the way their charts come together. Mary, I need my glasses. I can better see this. I was wondering if Nicola will face some personal shadows soon, considering she is placed as a power person by the holiday. Oh, that's a loaded question. Okay, so Mary, Mary Carmen Andrew. Yes, personal shadow, we face it every day, but you're talking about maybe even more so. Yeah, because she has Scorpio at the top of her chart, her public persona. Yes. That's such a loaded question. You got to understand the ethics of someone by how they are going to maneuver, right? I mean, we've seen examples of other people in the industry where they're hard to knock, if that makes any sense, because of how they were raised. And they got their feet on the ground. They got a sound family around them. right? There's something about that within Nicola's ethics. Tori says, Nicola clapped back at Jake in an IG post this week and he's gone quiet. Okay, not sure if she's willing at the moment to resolve things with him. Yeah, of course. I mean, hard lessons with friends. She's got a lot going on in her public persona. So if anybody's gonna mess with that, she's gonna mess, she's gonna make sure boundary. Again, her boundaries though have challenges at times. So Kendra, free will functioning inside the realm of fate is exactly how I've understood it. Free will, yes. Oh, that's a good one, Kendra. I like that. So free will functioning inside the realm of fate is exactly how I've understood it. Thank you for putting it. Okay, yeah. Wonderful. Zombie Girl, I love how Nick and Luke will be powerful together. Yeah, there's still that potential, even, on the world stage. Nicola is the magnet, and yes, she is the magnet. She's the magnetism. That's why she's been equal to the goddess at some point, right? I mean, there's a lot of projection on that, but there is some quality that it'll come out in my Aphrodite video on, like, there's sometimes people are touched by certain things. They're like, whew, okay, she definitely has that. Okay, me too. Zombie Girl, power couple. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I hope that they continue with the privacy thing. I think that's super important. Okay, so let me keep going on the questions, guys. These are great questions. We already are in an hour. Well, okay, I barely have answered all the questions. There's going to be so many. Is it going so far? Is what I'm sharing with you valuable? I mean, I think with so many questions, I'm going to answer as many as I can within 2 hours, and then I might have to think about answering the other ones another way. There's so many. Okay. And the way I organize them too, because I just kind of just cut and paste onto a piece of paper. I think I need to organize them better. Okay, another one is, let's see here. Hold on one second, I'm going to scroll. One second, let me find the next question. There's so many. I'd like to know about Nicola's New York City trip paired with the possibility that Luke joined her. Yes, we already talked about that. There are some breadcrumbs in posts that had us wondering. Yeah, and I'm not just an astrologer. I'm also, educated. I have a business degree, and I took statistics, so on a probability, high probability. So yes, but I think it's hidden, right? Otherwise, why would he even posted that about Be Right Back? And right after the celebrate, was it the Boyfriend International Day or something like that? I mean, it was too many things, logic. But we're dealing with logic in a period of time where Saturn and Neptune are creating a very strong veil. So there could be a bit of imagination. It runs away. Oh, welcome, Zoe from Australia. Wow. I'm glad you enjoy the videos. Okay, let me continue finding questions here. So I think I'm going to have to organize these in a brand new way because the way I've put them is making it harder for me to nail them down. Hold on one second. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's one from Nancy Smith, 2945. There are other astrologers who have talked about the potential romantic relationship between Nicola and Luke. One brought up Lilith. Do you see that Lilith on either chart have a negative impact on their romantic future? Ooh, great question. I don't know. I really didn't discuss Black Moon Lilith a lot when I was doing the Bridgerton series, but Black Moon Lilith is this part of the chart right here. Can you see that? 23 Gemini for Nicola. And let me jump over to Luke. If I can see here. Can you see Luke's chart? This is Luke's chart. And Luke has in Pisces. So yes, let's talk about Black Moon Lilith for a second. Black Moon Lilith, I did a study on Black Moon Lilith for the EA Zoom meetings, astrology people shared. You can actually search on YouTube for Sarrah. I think it might be under Sarrah West because that was my name before. Sarrah West and Black Moon Lilith. I have a whole video on that with volunteers who share into that topic. Black Moon Lilith is subtle and yet very real for chaos. What it does is it brings up the wounded feminine, the rage of feminine, the wounded feminine. So all of that within the fandom, when they're looking at a pair that's a couple, and if someone gets wounded, that's just gonna go out like a lot of emotion with it. Does that make sense? So Black Moon Lilith, and the question is do you see that Lilith on either chart have a negative impact on their romantic future? Well, well, first you have to make the assumption that they have the romantic future, which is a possibility, right? I still say they are. I think there have been points where they have crossed a little bit of a boundary and then pulled back. That was in 23 for sure. And then I think again in Rio de Janeiro, which I discussed. But I still think there's this professional kind of keeping it friends, but not, I mean, just high flirtation. And you add any little bit of alcohol, having fun, or something like that, that boundary could just drop in a minute. And then it's like, oh, got to pull back, but just still keep professional and friendship. So there's still that kind of cloudy bit there that I think is important to point out. But with the Lilith, long-term relationships have to navigate the feminine that's been wounded. And you know who's been getting a front row seat 101 on this kind of stuff is Luke Newton. Because he was young and coming in past his Saturn return and then getting hit with all this stuff as this came out. I mean, he probably had an idea about, oh, this is going to be great, but then getting hit with it again. But it's not all his, it's like the stuff is unconscious. And so he's getting this because the way his chart is, because of this like squaring, that Mercury squaring. But the Black Moon Lilith is in the 8th house of stuff around intimacy, sexual stuff, and the taboo subjects, right? So Black Moon Lilith in Pisces is like in the consciousness of the partners and their feminine rage, and he's going to experience it. So any Dark Moon Lilith is like it's his blind spot for Luke. Right. And the only way he could get at it would be through studying astrology. He could have his reading on a reading specifically to get into the material. But then he would have, when I say study astrology, it's like you could sit with an astrologer and say, I would like a few sessions to discuss my Black Moon Lilith and to go into some themes and life experiences that I've had. And you can identify it, like go to when Jupiter was sitting on Black Moon Lilith. What was that presenting in your life? Go to when Saturn was sitting at 5 Pisces. What was happening in your life? And I can tell you right now, there's going to be some emotional content, something super feeling for him and the way he communicated, because his Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces, co-ruler. So I look at Jupiter first because of ancient astrology, Hellenic traditional astrology. And then modern astrology pull in Neptune from here in Capricorn, and you have in his chart this conjunction of Uranus and Neptune. So he's going to get explosive things that he's experiencing around themes like that. So, and that's partly from who he's date and all of the surge of passion from people. Imagine how much projection Luke Newton has received from angry women in the past 4 years, ever since that last scene of season 2. It's huge. And then experienced by Jade in how that attacked, social media attack. Even if she had a funky response on something that was filmed, who cares? I mean, she's got her own chart. She's got her own things that she has to figure out. I mean, like what she's putting out there, right? So it's almost like the magnifying glass on the emotional, but it's like what pops out how it's perceived and how it's received. So that Black Moon Lilith for Luke is definitely like a hidden thing. So you have to understand the levels of consciousness, so someone who's lived a little bit more life is going to have a little bit more that's been made conscious, potentially, depending on, and to me, the fact that Nicola introduced astrology to Luke, and maybe after the to-do, they were introduced to it, but she's the one who invited to take a look at it, right? So that's kind of profound, that there's the invitation to start exploring things that help you get into the hidden parts of self. That's the whole point to me of like why we have astrology, why we have these things, for signs and for omens and these kinds of things. It's like a guide. You still have to live your life, right? And you have to identify what are your beliefs and what are you conditioned already. Do you have to like go through a process of like releasing a belief to have a new experience? Because that is what transformation is about. So Luke definitely has that difficulty. So it might be difficult when it gets into sexual things for his partners, because that's 8th house. It doesn't mean he may just receive the information by someone who's been through. Let me give you an example. Let's just hypothetically say he has gets close to Nicola. Okay, let's just go to them as Colin and Penelope. And so these actors have to step into those roles, and they're playing intimacy scenes, and so they had to work out their own stuff in their own selves to present very high sexual content, right? For a it's going to be viewed by the world. So I guarantee you there are conversations about, like, Nicola has her own idea about something, and then Luke has his own idea about something. But from the Black Moon Lilith is, then how is it received by millions of people? That represents the reception of it, not only by the partner, but also by what he may perceive based on what the partner tells or shares or how open or closed they are. Okay. Because if someone has been wounded by the heart, it affects how they could be sexually. That makes sense? I hope that makes sense. Now let me just jump back to Nicholas for a second. Is that her? That's a progress chart. Let's go here to the move. Is that transits? So is this the transit chart? Yes, this transit chart. So hers is here in the 5th house. So 5th house is the house of Venus in the house of children. So in traditional astrology, 5th house is known as the house of Venus. It's the house of pleasure. And she has not only Chiron in there, and she has Black Moon Lilith side by side. So to me, yes. Yes and no. Let me tell you, if you heal the things by going about something that helps you get back your power, that's why we go through experiences. Even going through ritual is a way to embody the power that maybe was surrendered at some other point in time. And I know that I've talked to about having too many astrology readings can relinquish your power in some way too, or tarot readings or anything. You have to be very careful about how you handle the esoteric arts, because it's very powerful. Just like our sexual interactions are very powerful. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. But because her ascendant is in an air sign and her Black Moon Lilith is an air sign, there is this opportunity as Pluto or any planets come to about the 20 degrees of Aquarius, where her Amoria is, there's an opportunity to heal this. And think about how many people, I want you to think about how many women watched Bridgerton, looking at Nicola go through the transformation, then also going into their own sexual natures and actually finding a new empowerment there, because there was just like this relationship with Nicola, and because she was empowered, they felt empowered. And so there's a real interesting thing that's being translated through her creative, which is 5th house of creative, right? So, and so that there's a process there that's happening. There's things that are being integrated by a lot. Not only Nicola herself, but then what gets reflected out by how people will behave, might loosen a conditioned state of thinking about their own sexuality, about those kinds of relationships. And so, yes, it can have a sting to it, but if you don't approach something and take an active participation of how you're going to integrate that part of the self, because all of the astrology is all about everything wanting to integrate. So, so that Black Moon Lilith for Nicola is absolutely connected in kind of how she can speak to it through her creative work. So, for example, in terms of the sexual nature, the pleasure principle, let's just go pleasure principle is in the creative work. And she takes back the power. And I mean, literally stepping forward and doing the scene in episode 5 as a big FU to those who may have shamed her before. It's like, I'll show you. It's like she wanted to do that, right? And so that's a take back power. Like I'm empowered. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, right? So that's pleasure principle. But now another theme of fifth house theme is children. So the way that Nicola's chart is her path has this, it's in the creative work. There'll be notes, like kind of like musical notes, but also like energy notes that have a little tiny bit of a sting in it. But she's going through a process. She's integrating the thing through the creative work. And so it can come out in her creative work about lessening that from the wounded feminine, the rage feminine, that would be Black Moon Lilith, right? But I cannot say, unless Nicola was sitting next to me one-on-one in a reading, and that she's asked me as a part of that question between an astrologer and, client, that you could then dive into. It's like, okay, I see what you've done in your work. We can always say but behind that, there's another Nicola, the inner Nicola, the part that you don't tell the world, right? How do you feel about this or that or this or that, until you can get into that kind of discussion, and she's broaching the subject for herself to understand herself. Do you get the truth of that in a deeper way? So we can conjecture all we want, but unless there's that kind of relationship, you know what I mean? So I want to make sure I point that out. There's a relationship. When you go to have a reading, you create like a triangle, because you create the person that's doing the reading, which is the astrologer or the reader, like the tarot reader, oracle reader, whatever. And then you have the client, but then you create a relationship up to the ninth house. Ninth house is where you have the conversation with divination. Okay, so we can have like an exploration of the subject material, but we don't have the divination part, right? And you can have, like the readers have, I'm feeling the energy, but the individual has free will control, can say, I'm participating at a higher level for certain things, but there's still a bit of going behind the veil of Pisces. Hope that makes sense. Let's see here. Kung Fu Mind. I love Luke's silence and mystery. Yes, same. PM, sending love and gratitude from Vermont. Okay, so let's see here. What else? Hopefully that explains the Black Moon Lilith detail. Some people dive into that as like a subject that when you've had like your first couple of readings in astrology, I think, unless Black Moon Lilith is on an angle, or your moon or your sun, like it's like really strong, or even Venus. If it's on Venus, and I've seen this in one of my clients' charts, you can have really strong response to relationships. Okay. Let's see. What else? There questions? Some people have asked me, why am I so obsessed with these two? I think I mentioned it in one of my videos, but if it's not clear, let me point that out. Nicola's chart has Scorpio at the top, right? And Scorpio absolutely has an obsessive, I need to know, probing, I need to understand that. I'm obsessed with the thing, you know. And at another level, you want to merge with that thing. So powerful, right? So that's Nicola's career house. And so her 10th of public persona. People are obsessed. Like, why am I so obsessed? You add any partner in her, like, co-lead partner. Because remember, I've told you that Luke Newton has many that show up in the 7th house because of you have a significant other, and the significant other is a legal binding contract, and it, like, some people, spouse, legal binding contract, and it's also like a significant committed relationship, like a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, right? um, to me, when you put Luke and Nicola together, you create this powerful force field because they are strong mirrors. And then you have the Scorpio on the top of the chart and the bottom of the chart of public life and the private life. Like, I want to know about the whole thing. I want to know about their projects. I want to know when they're connecting. I want to know about their sex life. I want to know about everything. And then I also want to know about their private life, like all the things, like not just their work, but also I want to know about their family. And I want to go deep, 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 deep. But they have to lock that down. And they both have soul things that they have to navigate about that much energy, all right, to process and to navigate that. I hope that makes sense. About the power of the pole. And the power of Scorpio is feminine. And it is feminine that once it has such an obsessive quality to it. And Taurus, which is on the bottom of Nicola's chart and the top of Luke's, is also beauty, sensuality. So it just oozes out of their combination. Make sense? I mean, because if you think about other co-stars, even if they have a lot of Aquarian energy, right? Like, because I believe Jake also has a lot of Aquarian energy, but it is not the same vibe. I don't care who you are. It's not the same vibe. There is something in the combination between Nicola and Luke that pulls this energy and the magnetism and that's where I got so like, what is going on with the Eros and Psyche, because of the Eros and Psyche theme that's been building towards their season, but also was in even before, like just the fact that they had the butterfly, and they were laying over that theme of Psyche and Eros in that whole theme for them. But to me, is the Aphrodite Swans goes beyond that. It goes early into Nicola's life. So we'll go into that later. But yeah, there's some kind of, by the pull, by the moment in time, and all the things coming together. And then the fact that we got the astrology and that the readers have been really prominent, it kind of makes me wonder about what's being revealed about how we language this, how we participate with this, and then how we conduct ourselves. I mean, to me, everything is a teaching tool. And when there's an opportunity to look at energy and understand, so if you are a reader, you're also kind of like, how do I navigate all of this, and still kind of work with, like, trying to be public, but at the same time having a delicate balance between how you read, right? It's really important, ethics and how we do that. I mean, and there are variables in that when you look at public persona charts or personalities, right? Another question, will Luke and Nicola do other parts together after Bridgerton? I think yes. I mentioned that one earlier, so that's a repeating question. Somebody asked, Maria Masi 641 asked me, hi Sarah, I'd like to ask if Luke gave Nicola the diamond claddagh ring. Oh, that's an interesting one. It's, let me answer that. Let me put it this way. That question is more of a question that could be answered by a pendulum or what are they called? energy, the rods. You can answer yes, no questions with that. And you can also answer that question. It's not something, maybe with horary, but I'm not doing horary because it's not Nicola. It's not like, we don't have strong relationships with either one of them. So I want to answer that question by, it's a possibility, but maybe it was something that Nicola did herself to commemorate the season, and it has the hand, the ring, the fingers on the rings of the Claddagh ring that she has, I believe, show the rings that Luke Newton wears, not necessarily Colin, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't remember seeing him have the middle finger ring in Bridgerton. He only has that one big ring, right? So you got to think of symbolism. Symbolism is very powerful. So what is the symbolism alluding to? Unless that person comes out and straightforward says it, but I don't know if necessarily that would have been something. But you can ask the question. You can take. I mean, I could take another video. I don't have my pendulum with me at the moment, but you can answer. I can maybe do another video on how to use the pendulum. But you've seen, I think, I don't know if anyone else follows Anna from that's how I started my videos, because Anna like perked me up. She was so fun to watch, and I was in a little slump, and I was like, why don't I do a video? So here I am. Do you see any karmic events in Nick's chart like June 13th for Luke? Yes. Yes, that's in her North Node. And also the Gemini and the 16s. I think I mentioned this already in the premiere, the London premiere, and in the PAPS photos videos that I did. So yes, absolutely. Because you can't have a situation where someone is having a karmic wave. Okay, this is evolutionary astrology, okay? So evolutionary astrology is the lunar nodes. And who was having a lunar node return? It was Nicola. So part of the storyline is absolutely owned by Nicola, right? In terms of her having a friendship and something going off, then it hurting, like that kind of thing. And he then, I mean, he was having it like an unconscious event happening, right? Like everything, just like a Pandora's box opening. But it's karma. It's the karma wave breaking. It's like you waking up to this thing, and then you pay attention to everything around you, and it sends you into a cycle of you need to go into solitude to understand what's going on with yourself. And until you get there, you won't uncover it all. You just keep repeating the same pattern, and then you won't be able to rise above, right? Like you keep to release the sting. I mean, that's the evolutionary art. That's the intent. So Nicola does have a participation on that, if that makes any sense, because to create the strong bond that they had through all of the promo tour and go, what's going on? And then people feeling, oh, that's a betrayal for me, and maybe it's a betrayal for Nicola. But did he control that narrative from the external world? No, he did not. Stepping into it. Now, here's one that might blow people's minds. Studying evolutionary astrology, there's like the invitation, like you have a life here and you'll have a life in the future, and you're sending things into the future as well, and you're reenacting things from the past so you can actually work those things out, right? And so a great movie to like explore that kind of thing is Cloud Atlas. Great movie, by the way. Very long and but multiple lives kind of stuff. And any, I don't have any other examples, but it's really good. So the thing with Nicola is she's been portrayed in some fact. That's why her South Node is in Libra. The South Node, the sting from the friend, and very public. And so that kind of, yes, participating, but she has her own things to work out. Communication is really important. I even think Luke is aware of this because he said it in one of the interviews, like when they were talking about friends to lovers or something, and if they didn't work it out, they could still be friends, kind of thing. So he is aware of it. The question is where they are in the paradigm. And I think they've both, as I have made the argument that I think Nicola is the pullback. I think Luke has been interested maybe beginning and even in 2023. So I think in the very, very beginning, and then held that and then did their parts. But then it started kind of showing up when they had to do their own intimacy scenes and then still pull back, maybe flirting with the idea in early 23. And he was already departed, separated from Jade, even though they did the likes and things on social media, whatever. But it's more like something was the initial kind of interest, like let's give it a go, but no, it then something, and then at that point he's like, oh, okay, and then goes off with the friend group and does the thing, and then that kind of just builds the thing. Here's the thing about evolutionary astrology: there's a map to the big archetypal karmic wave breaking, and with that you have an event that your soul has mapped it out. It has got all the people who play the parts to create the thing, including so in that June 12th detail, June 13th, and her response is a part of it because that's communication. That's her north node. She doesn't blast him. She articulates to, like, use her words wisely and quickly, and that. But then behind the scenes, they have to have their own kind of communication of how they might navigate. Like, well, I thought you wanted this. There were a couple things, I think, in Verona, Italy interviews. It was either Verona or Milan, where there was some tension there that I was like, when they were getting to some questions where like there was interest, and but it was paused or halted or whatever. And so it's still strongly the friends, and then, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't open back up because of an opening. And that's why I think the outer planets can set those things in motion, because there's been transformation and things that are integrated, lessons learned, and what's communicated. It's not so much as what's communicated, because something that's in the heart is in the heart, but the heart will communicate it more. Like, that's what we were sensing in the promo tour videos, is that emerging raw energy that is on the instinctual level, and we were reading it. It's like, okay, why can we see it and they don't see it? That's a part of that. So the karmic, to me, that is the karmic event. And maybe you're asking, Lena, about any more karmic events. I mean, they're layers, right? So when she's in the third house, Mars is active, and Mars is, okay, let me give you some astrology that might be answering some of that question, because there's, I think, layers to your question. When Nicola has her birthday and she's 38 years old, okay? And then we have Uranus come to Gemini. She's going to have the Uranus opposite her Venus. So that can be another karmic event related to her south node, if that makes any sense. So she could be somewhere international. So she's not at home. She's not in Ireland. She's somewhere else. And she has something that opens up, and then we can see it. And that can be a past life energetic pulse that's pulling through for her to like navigate. Because when it's Uranus, it's right there. But that her Venus is 1 degree and some minutes, whatever. And so when it's precise, so that's an important moment. That'll be next year. Excuse me, is that 26? Excuse me, hold on. I need to look at my ephemeris. I don't think, it might be July. Give me 1 second. I look at the charts, or the ephemeris. July. It might be yeah, it is July. Yeah. So it might be August, because it's at 0 degrees in July, the Uranus. And then in August, it lands. So, yeah. And I haven't rectified her chart, so I don't have her Venus to the minute. And so I can't tell when Uranus to the minute. So it's definitely August of 2025, but I can work on that. Once I get the once I do the rectification, I will do a little bit more forecasting, because forecasting requires maybe a little tighter on the ascendant, even though we have, because that ascendant window is 2 hours. Okay. So there's 2 hours in that hole, right? So that's important to point out. I think I answered that one. Is there any others in terms of karmic events? So that's a karmic event when, right here, you can't even see that. Can you see this part of the chart right here? Like, it's basically one of Gemini when Uranus gets there. Jupiter, okay, so here's another example of that. So when Jupiter entered Gemini right around when they're in Toronto, right? Toronto, because I talked about Toronto recently. That gave us the open information on the Toronto BuzzFeed interview, right, of her astrology. So that was Jupiter giving us that information. We got that information. We could even do this exercise of exploring astrology. Another thing, karmically, Antonia is also Jupiter at 1 degree of Gemini. So she is definitely in the mix and a part of the equation of something also. So Antonia will have also a little bit of a Uranian moment, let's just say that, in that same period of time, which is interesting because of all the tracking, I think, in the social media. But I think I don't know if it's still going on. I don't follow that part, but maybe you guys, tune in to people who share that kind of stuff in terms of Antonia copying, like when she posts. I don't know any of that because I don't follow. I only kind of have Nicola in my view. I just get the others after a fact from other people on social media who do that more tracking. I hope that makes sense. Okay, Felicia Walker, did you discuss Nicola's New York City rats post and the possible meaning behind it? She's using symbolism, right? Right. So is she referring back to when she was holding the little ratatouille social media rat? Or are we projecting an idea of a person into the rat position? So think about symbolism. Is she in New York City for something for Big Mood? I don't know. See that it's really hard to cut through that. I mean, there's, again, too much Pisces, Saturn, Neptune to really say until. Here's my thoughts. Even if Nicola did not like something that Jake did, okay, it's not like her at all in her character to do something like that, because he is in the friend group and she understands the mental wellness of friends and social media shit. Excuse my language. But yeah, I don't see that. I see it as something else, maybe related to work, because of the social media posts on the ratatouille little rat, and she had to hold a rat. I hope that's my opinion on the matter, and I don't think really astrology could say that that's not something astrology could pinpoint necessarily, unless you're doing horary for the individual. You might, if any other reader has done like pendulum or the energy rods, you can get a yes or no and you get an energy read on that. I would ask that question on that front. Okay. Okay. Do you believe, who's that? Abby, do you believe that Nicola and or Luke are aware of this mirroring connection many of us can plainly see? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think if they're not, because in the very beginning there was commentary about the mirroring in some of the social media shares on it, and I'm sure they're looking at some of that social media. Okay, for example, I don't know how many videos have been done on mirroring, but I would say there's been quite a few. And I know that millennials especially are tuned into mirroring because there are other fandoms who talk about mirroring. And so when it in came into our view, there's I mean, if that subject material came up in any social medias, I do think they, because it's an unconscious like thing that happens by the souls who have that type of connection, um, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like that unconscious mind connection. And to me, let me tell you why I think the mirror, not only is it the ascendant and of the two, and they're mirrored like from that in their charts. That's one. Number two is that his Venus is on her Mars. That's just kind of that the vibe of the connection. We get that too. Aries, we see the raw energy, the instinctual nature just eking out. So that's another one of the mirroring. And the other one is that his North Node in Sagittarius, fifth house of Venus and um, attraction, like that's like that part. And then and so that's his Venus to her Mars, right? And then having her Saturn in Sag, and um, and that's kind of like connected to his North Node. So there's kind of that connection on the fire energy, and the fire energy is always expressed outwardly. And generally we see it because they were talking about their work. I hope that makes sense. Let's see what else. Okay, not sure if anyone else asked earlier, but do the full moon have any impact on the Canuck this week? Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. Oh gosh, what was that full moon detail? That full moon in Aries is at 24 degrees, right? Because that was on my ascendant. So yes, so that is on her Uranus. So something being opened for her, like uh, in her friend group. So something being like dropped in on her was one. That full moon would have an illuminating moment. So it's possible that there was a stressful situation between Nicola and Jake related to the full moon. Was yours about Luke and Nicola? Yes, because his North Node creative. So something could have opened up when they were on the set together as a part of that full moon as well. Does that make any sense? Because it's a fire energy expression because that full moon is Aries and it's 24 degrees, the 24 Libra. So that would be her South Node and his North Node. And so it kind of opens up this part of the chart for her. So something that was communicated, things maybe around the past life is underneath it all. Okay. And at this time, I believe, okay, at the full moon, Venus was at 29 degrees of Scorpio, 20 or 29 degrees Scorpio. So it was opposing Uranus. So there's kind of this opening for something that could be a surprise or I feel like a betrayal. So if it was related to another friend and then Nicola is maybe talking with Luke on set, because you hang out for hours on set if you're doing something, that there could be some opening that's presented that something gets illuminated, like, oh, did not know that, or that kind of detail. And if something happened related to Jake and she was frustrated about it and trying to resolve that, and it was discussed or something, there's a potential there. Of course, I mean, this is all potentials just because of the way their charts line up on the 24 degrees Aries, or some, how it trines this part of her chart where the 24 Sag is. So that 24 Aries would have been here, and that's a trine to her Uranus. So there's an opening of communication with a friend, something that drops in like that. And then the other fire is the Leo. And not that Luke has anything at 24, but he has a Chiron at 20 degrees. So, again, I haven't pulled Jake's chart, but it could be that when you're trying to, think about, let's think about logically first before we bring in all astrology. Logically, if there's a real messy, that's just let's go under the assumption, we're going to make an assumption here, that they all were in New York together. And then things, Luke is completely behind the scenes and hidden, potentially, right? And maybe he's meeting people, because I kind of wonder if he's not meeting with people for projects and things like that, because he did go on a trip. If he's not with them, then he is doing some other project behind the scenes, but it was sure alluded to based on the combinations. And for him to be very in the place of the invisible, he's having an 8th house annual perfections. He's kind of moving and operating from the unseen right now. So not surprising that he wouldn't be out there. He's going to be more out there after his birthday, okay? When he moves to a 9th house annual perfections. Let me go to Luke's chart. Where do I have his chart? Luke. Okay, here's Luke. This is Luke's chart. So right now he's in an 8th house annual perfection. And so Jupiter in Gemini is here. So there is a potential that he's with friends, Nicola being friend, and that it's also something hidden for future projects. And so that kind of thing, right? It won't be visible. Things won't be visible until he goes into after his birthday on February. What is his birthday? Goodness, February 5th or something. So this is where he's going to be a lot more visible because of the way his ascendant is. Okay, and that's international. He'll be, but again, his Mars is tucked away in the 12th house. So these 12th house connections of his Mars in the 12th. And Nicola has her Sun and Mercury in the 12th house. There's these things that pull them very private. Like I'm going to be behind the scenes, right? And he also has done the recent work on that animated movie where he's the voice of one of the main characters. I think it's Portuguese. Is it Portuguese? I don't know. All the details on that film. It's more of an animated film, and he's the voice. So kind of like stuff he'd done behind the scenes, right? But I don't know. That's not coming until 2026. Is that correct? Could be 2025. Not sure. Maybe that's Christmas of 25 when that's coming out, but I don't know. Let's see here. Hopefully, did I answer that question about why that is behind the scenes? Let's see here. Got more questions here. Thank you, Lena. Yeah, answer that one. Okay. I also think that full moon, by the way, let me just add on that. That full moon, so major, now that we're on Luke's chart, that would have hit his chart in the Aries, which is in the 9th house of being something illuminated from international travels. And then it's this part of the chart right here, right? And something may have been fully realized for his future work from that international. Does that make sense? Like something we don't know about yet will have been illuminated for him, but it could be related to someone he cares about because his Mars is in Cancer. But it's kind of like he could have realized some kind of news that fully came into view for him, but we don't know about it yet as a part of that recent trip. Okay, that to me is what's being illuminated there. But because he also has that fire energy to his 5th house as a trine, I kind of wonder if it wasn't being something illuminated for that. And I think because his North Node is so connected to Nicola, that she would be definitely in the know of that as it emerges. Mars is also by transit here at 24. So it was a grand cross during a full, so the 24 degrees of Cancer Mars is squaring the 24 Aries. That's a square. That's hard energy. So behind the scenes, there's maybe also something going on emotionally, like wanting to protect that we don't see yet, if that makes any sense. So, for example, if he gains information and illumination from one of his friends having an issue with someone, he has maybe the instinct to protect. That Mars in Cancer wants to protect, but he can't make it visible, maybe. There is a strong potential there. Okay, something that, yeah, it has that desire to protect. And because the sun was in Libra, it's like what's being communicated in his relationship or relationships, because that's just your communication house. I don't know if anything of family is tied into that, because the Mars being in such a square with that full moon brings in the ruler of his fourth house of family. So there can be something underneath that's important that we don't have information on as well. It would be very private. Yeah, hopefully that answers that. I'll say, Fabiola, can you say when they're going to marry? I'm sorry, it's too early to know that. Yeah, true. Yeah. As a fellow Aquarian, we move in silence. Yes, that's true. Aquarians also like lots of friends. Let's see here. Luke is, yeah, oh, this is in French. Oh, goodness. Luc, il est toujours avec Antonia, ou I can't even see that film. Fini avec elle. I think what you're asking me, I have very rough French from many, many years ago in college. Okay, here's my hunch about the Antonia scenario. My hunch about Luke and Antonia, for the record, is I think something went down during the Mercury retrograde that was at the end of August. Okay. And then there was a bit of, there was a little bit that emerged that we could see, but then it was pulled back pretty tight. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that one. So I think what happened over the summer is eventually Luke became aware of what was going on behind the scenes and took action on that, but then had to be careful because of how a person may respond. And then, yeah, that is my hunch, not necessarily pure astrology on that yet, because I haven't shown you guys Antonia's chart, but based on some of the karmic things, because she has Saturn, her Saturn is in Taurus, and it's right on Nick's moon. So if Luke is trying to protect Nicola, he will take action legally to protect, I think, some responses, if that makes any sense. So it's a lot of stuff that you have to do mature in that kind of industry, and how visible you are and other people who are connected to you. So there could have been action like that, if that makes any sense. So, I mean, NDAs and all this stuff get very complicated. Let's see here. She wants to know if he's still with Antonia. Is he still with her, or is it over? Most person could also want to. Okay, French. Oh, is it over? I think it's over. Yeah, I'm telling you, I think that that relationship tripped over in that Mercury retrograde when it was in Leo. Okay. And then the fallout would be how he was going to navigate whatever with his social media, and then how he was going to have responses. Now, of course, some of this is astrology, based on my astrology. Okay, let me show you where I think that is. Okay, so 7th house Luke is Aquarius, right? And that would include someone like I've said, it's significant other, like a co-lead or a significant relationship. So Jade would have fallen into this. Sophie, from when he was with the lodge or whatever, any significant partner that he has falls into 7th house. And so it's Saturn and Uranus. Okay, so if what we have seen and observed over the summer, now This is making the assumptions that they were in some kind of relationship, right? That materialized over a year, of some sort, right? Like whether identified or not, but enough to be present at these events, right? So whatever. And family members being introduced to them. I mean, because you can have a relationship with somebody and never introduce them to the family and keep it quiet, whatever. But that's not the case here. So, I mean, reality check here is like she is to me a part of that Aquarian seventh house experience. And then when the Leo Mercury retrograde happened, it just swiped over that stuff and kind of negated that, like that connection. And so he legally is bound to reconnect with Nicola by co-lead. So that's not the person. It's going to happen through the other person. Does that make sense? I mean, so there would the Mercury retrograde end of August was a part of that spillover of. So, yeah, but it's not that easy because she was visible and making herself visible. But there's a karma attached to it, whatever. And then, to me, that is part of the mix. I hope I answered that question. I mean, I will do a video on that so you can see kind of how I step through the astrology on it. It's too layered to examine in a live completely. Luke's friendship group seems, yes, that's true. And that's part of his South Node. See the South Node in Gemini in the 11th house of friends? He's going to have that. He's going to have strong past life experiences with the significant other related to the friend group. And look at the mirror. I want you to think about this. Look at the mirror in what's coming out from New York. Nicola having an issue with a relationship that's showing up as troublesome, and then she's having to navigate that. It's a mirror to Luke. Can you see that? Can you see the mirror? It's such a powerful lesson about the mirror within the mirror within the mirror. I mean, like when you stand in the two mirrors, I've mentioned this before. I know I have, but maybe it doesn't quite land. But it's when you have such strong chart connections like this, what they experience can be experienced also by the other person, and they're getting another observable witness to the thing, so they're learning the lesson from another another layered experience. Does that make sense? Oh goodness, all the French. If you guys can translate, that would be great. I love that I have an international community here, but might have to practice my French. I have the impression that Nicola needs Luke because she seems sad in New York. Stressed by being observable. Yeah. But not only that, she was there for a major event. I mean, goodness, time 100. And yeah. Also trying to have a vacation. I mean, here's my thoughts on Nicola's perceived stress in New York. We can also just note that I think Nicola is figuring out how famous she really is. I think when they're on set, they don't really understand how famous they are. But I mean, if anybody watched I watched briefly the Emmys, and she got like eclipsed, and that was a part of the eclipse. And also, how she got eclipsed on the red carpet by that person. I was just like, isn't that crazy? But then the feed was all Nicola. It was crazy how much. I mean, she's so like, I don't even think she fully registers it yet. And I think that's true because it's the transformation that's going on with Pluto over her ascendant. She really doesn't understand how famous she is. And she actually needs to up her security, honestly, and be more going out the back door. Yeah, those days are over for her. Yeah, blew up in not a good way. Yeah, she's in a dangerous situation. She keeps doing that. She cannot do that. Yeah, very proud person. English. Yeah, of course, they do not like to dirt out. Yeah, absolutely. Not just the English. I think anyone who wants to have a bit of a normal sense of self, but when you reach a certain buzz of fame, you have to pull back private hard. Okay, Sylvie, let me answer this. So I have the impression that Nicola needs Luke because she seems sad and nervous. Now, that is a bit of a projection to some degree because we can't say that Luke is the only one who can fill the shoes absolutely in the future for Nicola. Okay. He is a lovely person that we would like to see there. Absolutely. And the friendship, but they also had to be working on some things for their friendship, and they wanted to get back to filming Bridgerton, and they're co-workers and co-stars together. What I want to say about that is that that's an impression, so we get the impression about that, yeah. So that's our idea about it. The me, that's the blend of Neptune and Pisces. Part of that's an illusion, and then we don't have the full-on truth. I mean, there's so many other projects that both of these people will go into, and I'm telling you, when Luke goes into other, more than Luke than Nicola, I think with Luke, it's an interesting thing that I'm seeing in the patterning that when he's in the connection with the co-lead, how that he's learning something from each one, but they have a very unique bond. And so that it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Luke has another full-on screen character come to life and what he's put into it, and it has any kind of romantic connotations. I mean, let me give you an example that is maybe you do you guys watch Outlander? Maybe I can give you this as an example. How many people projected for Sam Heughan and Katrina Balfe to be together, and they're all the innuendo, and yet they're still friends, and they've been filming for over 11 years or something like that. And then when Sam Heughan did another rom-com with Jonas Brothers' wife, Priya, consider like the differences of how that was felt by fans of Sam Heughan. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to help you understand the difference of the power of Sam Heughan's chart with Katrina Balfe, even though we don't have their rising exact, we have just their regular charts with no time, but the energy of fascination of their romantic, their chemistry. That's the Pluto, that's a Scorpio, that's that just fiery energy together. And then you put Sam with someone else, like, what happened? Not that it wasn't a sweet movie. Like, I watched a lot of movies. But that's what I'm trying to talk about. It's like we don't have that yet with Luke as a man, past Saturn return. So it's going to be interesting to see how that manifests in the future. I'm not saying that would hinder necessarily. I'm not saying that would hinder his relationship with Nicola, if that indeed is the case, to the romantic potential. But I'm wondering how people will perceive it because of being caught up in this chemistry with them, if that makes any sense. And I hope that doesn't necessarily happen where he can't play other parts. So maybe he's better off playing like a bad part, being, going on the dark side first. I think he would be extraordinary as a bad guy because of all his energy in his chart. But yeah. What do you see in their amorous astral chart, friends, lovers? So Sylvie, I still think there's a strong potential for actual romantic connection beyond the characters that they've played, of course. And timeline, I give the timeline, there's a couple points in time where I think it's really going to be visible that there is a potential, or the veil completely drops and then we're like, okay. So one of the could be when Neptune hits Nicola's Mars, because that's the connection point to Luke, okay, from the Venus, and that's then his Venus. So it'd be Nick first and then Luke, okay? So that could be that moment. The other moment will be, see that they are getting hit by outer planets so significantly, it's really hard to full on that's absolutely going to stick. Do you know what I mean? There's so many probabilities that I can say on the inner planets and Saturn and these kinds of things. And the Saturn makes me go, okay, Saturn and Neptune are so together. There's just a different kind of paradigm. So it can go completely crazy when the planet Neptune and Saturn go to her Mars. Like, I don't even know. I mean, it's just beyond words. And then when Uranus comes in onto the opposite of her Venus, that's also her Venus trine his Venus. There's another, like, what? There's another unmistakable point in time of 2025 where we're seeing stuff like get definitely transpersonal something going on. I hope that makes sense. So this really quite undefinable, yet we know that these moments are big. They're huge. But they're swept up in stuff they don't have control over. Does that make sense? Yeah. It makes me wonder about the fandom, to be honest. When the Neptune hits the Mars for Nicola, when is that exactly? Neptune to that 0 degrees it first enters there March 31st of 2025. So you don't have that long to wait, right? Okay. And then it's kind of in the month of April. It's all 0, 0, 0, and then gets 1 degree at the very end of April there. So sometime in that period of time, we have Neptune absolutely, completely conjunct her Mars. But then it'll go over and then station and then go back over. And so there is a period of Neptune, which is something going on brand new and pioneering with the career, with the obsession that people have. So this can go on a whole nother level, or it can go, oh, wait a minute. It can go either way. So you know what I mean? Because there is that potential. And then there can be another whole liftoff like, oh, okay, that really is different. And that will happen when the Uranus is opposite the Venus. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, Felicia, of course. Oh, yeah, sad because of that event. Yes, of course. Luke as a villain. Yes, of course. Sky Dreamer, I think same. Aofi Maximilian. Thank you. Have you checked their progressed moon? Yes, and I've done some of the progressions in the videos on the Bridgerton series. If you go back to those, but how about there's? Oh, I have not looked at zodiacal releasing. Aofi, I need to have true birth times, or at least I have rectified both their charts to feel comfortable about it. If I had, I now have a few more points on Nicola that might be usable. The tricky part is I don't have the absolute date that she got Dairy Girls. If anybody knows the absolute date that she got and landed Dairy Girls, that would be great. And then her father died within 5 days of that, because she said, I got the part from Dairy, right after or 5 days. So we don't have the absolute, and I've been looking for that date. That date of her father's death would help me rectify her chart. So I'm having to use some of the Bridgerton dates and times and things that have landed that are really strong energy for me to rectify her chart. Sylvie, will they postpone their awards or are they nominated? I'm not sure what your question is, Sylvie. Postpone their awards. You mean for Bridgerton? For the awards that are coming out in 2025? I don't think they would postpone that if that was on a timeline for them to be nominated. They couldn't get nominated before because of the timing of when things had to be in. But I think in 2025, probably. How could they even postpone that? I'm not sure if I understand that. Question. Let me see. We are at 2:09. Wow, we've already been here. How are you guys doing? We're now at 2 hours and some minutes. I might answer just a couple more questions and then whatever I don't get to. Is anything that you guys who are here want me to answer? I'm looking at the stuff I've got from everybody. Has your question that maybe you put in not been answered? Can you put it in the chat, please? because I think I've answered quite a few, but I think some of them are overlapping on the ones that you guys shared with me. Okay, I answered that one. So people have asked me about marriage. Let me talk about marriage and significant others for just a minute. So people, because it's people who like romance, right? You're like, when is the person coming in, right? And so when you're looking at when the person's coming in, you're looking at 7th house. Okay, let's go back to Nicola because I think I have, this is Luke's chart. But Luke's same, I guess. Everybody who is in wants a significant relationship, you look for the ruler of the 7th house and you look for what is how that in their chart. So that's Luke. Luke's. So that's why Luke meeting Nicola was so key. But he turned 30, like when they were. He met her when he was slightly younger. So to me, it's more like how things were coming online for his whole experience of this. So significant other is Saturn in the 7th house. So, but he's also got the sun. And the sun is the ruler of his ascendant, right? As under the assumptions that we've made based on the BuzzFeed interview for his astrology. And to me, that is such a significant for him in terms of it takes time for him to figure out who that person's going to be because Saturn in Aquarius is part of that. But there will be themes that he has to kind of move through to get to mature, absolutely, to be in a healthy, close relationship like that, right? Like the relationship with Jade is maybe the closest thing we have as a comparison. That was the more of a healthy to begin with, and then, but his fame was rising really fast during that period of time. But we can see that real Luke in some of those behind the scenes of how he was and how they were in romance together. That's the real Luke, right? Like, and that's still kind of how Luke is going to present with a person. He will want to be committed, and he's an Aquarius, and he's the kind of Aquarius son that's going to want to be bonded with somebody. That's just the way how he's already showing up to be that. Nicola's a different thing. So I always look for what's going on with Saturn. So Saturn tells me kind of what the energy is for him to be in going into the committed relationship. Okay. And then what are the aspects his Saturn makes? Well, he automatically has to deal with the Saturn conjunct Mercury, so how he communicates, the perception, these kinds of things, and working some things out. That's part of the mix there. And then Uranus has been square that, right? So he's had all this bumpy ride with stuff like squaring that. But so when that Uranus moves into Gemini, it trines that energy, and so it makes it an easier lift for him in relationship. Does that make sense? So that's going in. Uranus will go into his friend house. So there's like what's surprisingly kind of coming in from friend, right? And who's the most significant friend, right? Like to me, there's something to that. And with Nicola's ascendant in Aquarius, I kind of keep thinking, is that the surprise? Is that the surprise that we could possibly see? But then once you get into a committed, loving relationship, guess what happens? When you get all comfortable in your love place, then you got more stuff that you got to deal with when it comes up. And that Uranus will go through there and open all that stuff up for him. Does it make sense? Does it make sense to me? But maybe it doesn't to you. I think Cat OT, I think we already answered that question about New York City and Jake. I would say it's still, some of that is still speculation, but I kind of, how you build the frame. So when you review this live, you can go back on what I said on that. It is very interesting. Astrology is very interesting, MD. Thank you. Let's talk about the progress because I did create progress charts just for a second. Let me go back to Nicola real quick about relationship, just so you can see it. Hold on. We'll go there first. So this is Nicola's chart. Let's just do that. Let me do. Yeah, so this is the progress chart. So then where's the progress moon is up here. You see the progress moon for Nicola here in Virgo at 23 degrees. So behind the scenes, some critical things like what people say about her, she's picking up on. But it's also it's in the sign of an earth sign. So then she's to be able to like look at it, deal with it. She's got earth, so she has a way of being able to. When you have earth, it helps you bring the thing down and figure it out. Like get grounded on the thing and figure it out. So if someone has said something that's critical to her value system or responded, that progressed moon is saying how she might operate with figuring that thing out and redefining it and working with it, how she communicates, because that's Mercury. Mercury rules that, but it's trine, so that it's working with it behind the scenes, right? Something that she might have in her unconscious mind, she's working on it, but it's also something that another person's value system being visible to her, okay? And that could be related to friends, yeah. I hope I answered that question. But when that moon, by progression, and that moon will move about a degree, off the top, I think it's a degree a week or a degree. Yeah, so that could be, I think somewhere I had mentioned when that moon moves into Libra, but I can put this in a kind of like points to like when we're looking at forecasting, because we use progressions for forecasting, because when that moon by progression moves out of her 8th house, then it goes into the 9th house. And so we will see Nicola having something, a lot going on with international, and we'll, because that's a lot of international travel going on, relationship wise, friends, because that pulls in her Venus and her Venus. So as you can tell, when the moon gets up to the 9th house, it goes into air, and air is more sociable, and it plays into her ascendant. So it's an easier, and it goes more social, and the focus on relationship, right? So I think another reader, I don't know who it is, don't ask me. I kind of observe a few tarot readers in the, because I kind of like, who do I like? It's me, because I like listening to tarot. And I kind of like, okay, are they kind of aligned with kind of what my thoughts are on the astrology, how it's showing up? Because when that moon goes into Libra, there's like that whole presence around how she may be more social, and then a little bit more visible, but then have something redefined in relationship going on. And as it goes towards the South Node, she'll still have something to release that she has in her unconscious mind about relationship that she's been working on. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like she can't realize it fully until it gets there. And so then there's kind of an awakening that happens, and it's not necessarily, it could be visible because her Venus, which rules the Libra, is visible in her chart. And so there could be something that, we can see how that now has matured. What has been hidden now matures, and now we can maybe see it. I hope that makes sense. And a good chance it might be related to Luke, but it could be there's another component that we don't fully see, because we do have that Neptune and that Uranus coming in that can give us some surprises, right? So that is, and the period of time that the moon is in a sign by progression is 2.5 years in each sign. Okay. So once it hits in the Libra, then it'll be there for 2.5 years. And then when it hits Scorpio, that's a lot going on for her when that moon hits at the top of her chart like that. And so the material that she will have as an actress will be profoundly deep, profoundly emotional, and that kind of thing during that period of time. Does that make sense? You follow the progressions, you'll see kind of what they work on. I'm hoping the live will be saved. If it's not, it'll be in the audio, because I have my audio recording right now for sure. Okay. Okay, understand. Thank you, Manara? Oh, goodness. I'll put that right. Yes, I hope it saves. This is my very first live, so I have no idea on this tech. Iofi, Iofi, Iof. I'm not sure how to say your name. Saturn and Neptune moving to Aries would be interesting too, how that would play out. Yes, absolutely. We're going to be watching that one like a hawk. Maybe absolutely we'll be doing lives near that time so we can see, because we have an opportunity to learn all together because of watching Nicola's, how that is in her life. Because when you have a transit, you always look at where is his natally. And I have to come over here to this chart. When you see that Neptune's going to have that activity onto her Mars, it's something that's emerging from the unconscious part of herself, because that's 12th house. And it's going to come out in the form of something that she's worked on, right? But it's also part of her connection to Luke. So I kind of wonder what other piece of stuff, or what we're going to see in the Bridgerton of, but we won't have in 2025. We might in 25 get behind the scenes, maybe, but I doubt it. They usually don't do any release on that stuff until they launch season 4 altogether in 2026, right? And I'll do another video on Bridgerton season 4 stuff, to kind of tell you how different the energies will be compared to Nick and Luke's season. Yes, I'll try to say Efa. I hope I said Efa. Maybe it's Efa or Efa. Name pronunciations. I want to say your names right. Okay, we are at 2:21. I will do just a few more minutes, and then we're gonna end this live because it's getting pretty hefty. Let me just scan my questions really quick. I have not. Okay, somebody asked me about the vertex. Do you think of Luke's vertex being conjunct Nicola's Saturn, especially in a synastry chart? We can't, you know what? We can't really do true synastry charts. Let me just say this. If you're talking about the composite chart, because there's like mapping Nicola's chart and then Luke's on the outside, or Luke and Nicola. Nicola's is actually more maybe profound timing, because we absolutely know she's an Aquarius rising. We are making strong assumptions on Luke's Leo rising because they gave that, but then they kind of fumbled it a little bit in the BuzzFeed interview. Again, I will keep testing it. The more we test, the more accurate we become. And I'm actually going to eventually lay in more dates. If I have about a dozen dates where they're super strong with certain events, it actually will give me a better time. But yeah, I think the vertex, which is this part of her chart, and they mention it's conjunct. Oh, Luke's vertex. Let me look at that. Let's see, where is that? Luke's vertex. Oh yeah, because it's on the North Node. Absolutely. I think, again, Nicola is like the feminine magnetic power that pulls in. I don't think she fully understands how powerful her magnetic pull is, but this pulls in Luke, right? And then that's that vertex, and on her Saturn. And someone mentioned, so what do you think about it? I mean, because Saturn can go a couple of ways. I mean, Saturn is that they met when they were on the job, work, Saturn. Saturn has some karmic things to it that in time you will know and you will understand. But imagine when you look at the whole, when you step back and look at the whole, there is no way that we could, that absolutely look at how powerful they are together. We already know that part, right? Like there's already been the visible, like when they are working together, how powerful they are. But then there's the whole other piece of it. It's like, well, let's build it, but that's the soul's doing something for us all to integrate together, right? And I think if you think about the storyline of Bridgerton, season 3, but maybe even going to other ones, there's something about the feminine rising and to be more embodied and empowered. How we get into our body mind imagery of ourselves and the power of the sexuality of the feminine is actually something that was historically probably greatly feared. There is so much power in that feminine, and that's why we have the scenarios that we have in modern day patriarchy. And it's why many women died, and history around the witch wound. Okay, there's so much power in the femininity, but when it comes back into, as it rises back into power, there's a magnet. There is a magnet, and I mean, think about all the subject material of things that are difficult that have come up between all the combinations of what Luke and Nicola have presented in their work, but also that have come into the conversation around them. You think about all those themes, you know, body image, a man dating so and so and going from this to that or whatever. I mean, those kinds of wounds, or, you know, is that a betrayal or not a betrayal? You know, all these things. Or even if you reversed it, like for Nicola, looking at a younger, you know, and you know what? I mean, all of those are a part of the conversation, and all of those to be in the feminine. The feminine is to be balanced in its awareness of it as a magnifier, and then masculine energy is an expression of something that comes from the it's the birth from the feminine, right? It's birth from the feminine. So what that's, to me, bottom line. And so it's really hard to describe this in some ways because it's the mysteries, and to understand the what feminine is. You don't force feminine, but someone who was born with a feminine planet in a fire sign has some challenges because you are an attractor beam for sure, and yet you can express and then repel things as well. And so there's this kind of like learning the balance of your power, learning the balance of that kind of like, can you sit to pull the thing in, manifest by pulling it in, is different than I'm going to go do it. And I'm going to exercise my masculine energy to go do it, to go get it. It's different, very different at the base of it. Okay, somebody told me Robin, her father died February 25th, 2015. So she would have got Dairy Girls the 1st or 2nd of March. Okay, I'm going to have to test that. That's great. Thank you, Robin. What's the source for that, if you don't mind me asking? I was all over YouTube trying to find that date and looking at blogs and things that I didn't find. So I would love to know what your source is, please. Yes. Yes, their MD. Yes, their charts are very aligned. That's why I kind of clued in on their past life connection right away, and the power of the collective being pulled into the Psyche and Eros. And I was pulled in by Psyche and Eros by the imagery, and then like, why are these so powerful, these two? And I wanted to understand underneath it all. Yeah, MD is like mentioning to Lena that energy comes once in a lifetime. I don't think season 4 will have the same chemistry. Yeah, I think you're right. Amelia and Andrew Garfield seem like they have similar energy to Nicola. Yes, they do. And I'll tell you why. I actually am going to do a video on Andrew Garfield's chart and pull in Amelia's. We don't have Amelia's birth time, but I will pull that in. I know other people have already done it, but I'm going to do it too because I love it. But I'll probably do I don't know, maybe I'll pull that one in quickly and do that one and then push it out since it's fresh stuff right now. And it takes my editor probably 5 to 10 days to get stuff to me sometimes. I think, okay. I looked up her father's history and seen the oh, you saw the obituary. Oh, okay. So you have a really good detail. Is that the obituary from like Ireland or online or something? That's really great information, Robin. Thank you. Gosh, I love it. We have such investigative people in this fandom. I love it. So that you said February 25th. I'm going to mark that down. I need a pen that writes. 1 second. I have to write that down. February 25th. You know, that's interesting because 2017, Saturn, which is kind of related to the father, would have been in Aquarius or emerging into Aquarius. I'll have to double check on those. No, it was not. It was in Sag. That's fascinating. Okay. Oh, there's an obituary on okay, thank you. Thank you everyone. Okay. That is very helpful because that really helps me build the chart for the rectification to make it absolutely 99% accuracy on it. Thank you. Um, thank you, MD. Necessary makeup, even though they are very private people, do you think they would announce or throw some breadcrumbs to hunt out there together for the fans? I don't blame them if they don't. I don't think they will. I think someone else connected to them will. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. I think that's the leakage portion of their charts. Yeah. It won't be, I don't think it would be necessarily them, but it will be kind of like, well, unless a pap hits them. But, that could happen. Yeah, and I think because there's been such a buzz about them, it would not surprise me that the paps aren't trying to figure that out. But the thing about Nicola and Luke, once they feel, I think once the, okay, couple of things. If it's been hard pulled back for a few years and there's there's just this total illusion still going on after the hits to her Venus or her Mars and his Venus, or excuse me, her Mars, and then the Uranus opposite her Venus, those potentials that I talked about. The other point in time that I think is interesting is going to be 4 years out, and that's when Luke's Venus goes through the progressed retrograde. And so there's a real heavy emphasis on his charts then. And that's his career house, his public persona. So at that point, which would be not necessarily season 4, but it would be maybe season 5, that would be maybe some of the things that get revealed about Luke Newton's connected to his Venus, which is connected to his relationship with Nick. So I kind of wonder if they are truly connected sometime in 25, for example. And it's still pretty private, but they are truly moving from friends into more serious, yeah, we're going to truly move this thing. And the feelings go into full blown, I'm in love with this person, right? Like an acknowledgement, both sides. And then what they do with it from there, still private, still private, still private. And if it gets presented in some way, I don't know, in those couple of years, 2026, I think there's going to be a lot of other innuendo going down. It's going to go down a different way though. And then 2028 is an interesting year though, that might be more information about that relationship that becomes more revealed because of that connection that Luke then now has his feet more solidly on the ground, and the way that the astrology is for him in those 4 years out. I think there's this period of time that's still kind of fragile, right? So you know what? I think there's going to be something interesting between season 4 and season 5 and their storylines. Yeah, I agree, Lena. I kind of wonder if I don't know if they did, because Queen Charlotte's storyline was important, but would they do anything with Luke and Nicola because of the power? And would they create something other, even if it's a short series, not a long series, but something like a one short series expanding on travel and being family and, I don't know, Lord Featherington and they're just the parents kind of thing. Be interesting to see them as an old couple. I'd love it. With their grown kids. Wouldn't that be funny? I think that would be so interesting to see that. Settling for the long haul with us, Sarah? What is, I'm not sure what that, long haul? Oh yeah, I'm looking at the time. See, gotta watch time. Okay, so I think I've answered. Let me just go back to my questions that I had on this 17 pages from online. Let me just take a peek at everything I had up on the front part. One last sweep through. I am aware of the time now. I had some questions that go back a little bit. Like I was going back to people who were asking me questions from 3 months ago as well, and kind of like, did I answer all of those in the series as well, that the playlist I did. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is, if I've missed anything on the questions that came through online, that I may do. Oh, someone asked me, will Netflix, and I think I'll answer this question with my Netflix. I have to go into the Netflix charts to answer this question from Nancy Smith, 2945. Will Netflix continue to greenlight seasons 5 through 8? I'm under the, based on what I would know, this is a cash cow. So they're going to split the seasons though. And they'll probably add on because it makes them money. Concerning Bridgerton, Nancy also asked, concerning Bridgerton, do you have enough information to determine if season 4 will be successful and draw the ratings that at least season 2 did? Ooh, there's too many variables in that. I don't know the exact numbers of season 2. There's a huge fan base for Benedict's character. When I first watched Bridgerton, season 1, when we're all quarantined, I guess, that was a crazy time. And I was like, what is this show coming out? This is interesting. I remember going, who is this Benedict character? He was the first one who drew my attention. He was, yeah, that was more my kind of like, whoa. But it's been interesting what they, and that was before I never read the books. And then I finally like downloaded the books and listened to the books, some of the books, like the Colin and Penelope storyline. And then I went to listen to, when I listened to the book 3, I guess, which is Benedict's story, I wasn't as pulled in hard as I was on the Colin and Penelope. So maybe I'm not the only person who thought that, but, and then I listened. But who knows what Shonda is interesting with how she works her magic, and just what they create with all the amazing. I love the amazing costumes and things that they do. So I have no idea how they're going to present this, and it is the Cinderella storyline. What I find is interesting, this overlay in this Aquarian is emerging into the Aquarian themes of the Bridgerton, because they're bringing in so many of the themes beyond what was first written by Julia Quinn when they first came out in the early 2000s, right? Yeah, because it's the magic that happens from what they create for now and what they can do with the different types of character, the diversity of all the characters. I think that's a fascinating way to overlay. Like, look at all this beautiful, as it could have been kind of scenario. It's just a beautiful, and it brings in opportunity, and I just love that part of storytelling. I love storytelling. So I kind of like, I think the energy is going to be interesting because it will have pulled in the fire energy of the Neptune and the Saturn in Aries by the 26th. And then we also then have the Uranus in Gemini. And when those are like that, that will be a different kind of blow up. It will still blow up because they're sextile energy, but it'll be a lot of talk. Something brand new will be in the paradigm shift. And maybe I wonder if it's because of what happened between Nicola and Luke and what happened in season 3, that there's a paradigm shift that will be a part of the equation of season 4 because of what they've learned so far. Does that make sense? But the archetypal energy is something new and pioneering is going to emerge from whatever happens, and we get to see visibly in 2026. And then what happens in the behind the scenes videos that get released in 2026. Yes, absolutely. It'll be like firecracker stuff. It'd be good. I think the chemistry between Luke Thompson Is it Yaren? Yeah, I can't remember Yaren's last name, but Yaren. I've watched them in a few little things that is it Netflix or Bridgerton website or something, or the social media. Just a little bit. There's so much more subtle energy between those two. It's a little bit different. It's hard to say. It's too early. People were connected to Nick and Luke for such a long time. This is a total different kind of thing. So, and I think when you compare it to Anthony and Kate, is that her? Yeah, those two, they're fireballs of energy, different. I don't know enough about Yaren yet. I have to go look at some of her past projects to maybe get her vibe. Has anybody else looked at Yaren's past projects? I don't know enough about her acting to actually have an opinion yet. Does that make sense? Like, but when I first see it, it's like potentially, yeah. I can see how Luke Thompson has pulled her in their on screen, like even for the social media. So that'll be very interesting to see how he pulls that out on screen with whatever the scripts are going to do. MD, okay, yeah. Oh, I haven't done any of the older the other stories. I got the books, I think, for I don't even know the name of these. Claudia's, I'm drawing a blank. Claudia's season will be what, 5 maybe, or 6? No, 5. And I think hers will be interesting because she's so feisty. I love her. So anyway, that's about that. I think I've answered most of the questions I wanted to go through that were shared, but there might be some that I've missed, and I will kind of scroll through and double check everything after the fact, but we're running out of time. So I'm going to stop sharing and just one final last glance here. We'll end the live here in just like 3 minutes. MD, it's not the same energy. It's still, I don't feel the vibe. Yeah, could be. Yeah. Could be. I think it's early for me to say about Yaren. Effie, Neptune and Aries will square Neptune and Capricorn, people who are most millennials. Yeah, absolutely. So from a millennial standpoint, I don't know. I'm Gen X, I guess I'm a little older, a little experienced. I have, a lot of the Gen X, we grew up with the Cinderella story, but the Cinderella story, I don't know how millennials perceive that. Millennials are a soul group collectively born during that period of time that are change agents. So their perceptions and thoughts on things are quite like paradigm shift stuff. And so it'd be interesting to see what like the most millennials will think about this. Very curious. And a lot of my audience is also, the bulk of you are millennials. So Louise, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Sky Dreamer. Yeah, I want them to do justice to Eloise season because I love her character. She's one of my favorites. She makes me laugh all the time. Except that one part when they were fighting. That was hard. But generally love it. I guess it was more like their characters were. But they played that so I could see them, like I could just imagine them after they did their hard scenes, Nicola and Claudia, after they had done filming, like, oh, I need a hug. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But maybe MD, you say he exudes. You're talking about Luke Thompson, Luke T. He exudes sexiness, absolutely, oozes out of him, and she seems a bit reserved. But maybe that's really good for this role, until it builds, I guess, because of the thinking about the book and the theme. But I guess we'll see. I'm sure there are going to be some unexpected things. All right, we're getting down to the last minute, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you've enjoyed this, give me a heart. Share a heart, please. Love it. if you can. I don't know if that's possible. I think so, but maybe not. I think there's a slight delay on my chat too. Thank you. Yeah, I was born in December of 1969, MD. So my daughter's actually Gen Z, and she kind of chuckles at me when I get into my fandom stuff. It's like, Mom, you're embarrassing me. Oh. Late Gen X in the 70s. She's a Capricorn and I'm Aquarius. Oh yeah, you have such a bond with the Aquarius and the Capricorn, right? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Nicola and Luke in the alleyway scene. Yeah, that alley. Yeah. People wanted to fight whoever did the scene for the horse coming through. Hey, get out of there, horse. Ooh, MD. Oh, love it. Oh, I'm wondering what your chart is now, MD, because you feel people. I wonder how much Pisces or where the placement is for you to feel people. Aquarius is more cerebral mind. Feeling is water signs. You know, but maybe you have a perception. Oh, maybe you have Mercury in a water sign. I don't know how you feel them. Okay. Okay, I'll go a little bit more, guys, because I see you're chatting here. Dune, I think. Yeah, she was in Dune, but I didn't watch Dune. With Zendaya. I'm going to do Zendaya's chart because we do have birth time on her, so she'll be interesting. Maybe I'll pull in Yaren's connection with Zendaya when I do her chart. Maybe that will be interesting because I have so many folks on my YouTube who are Bridgerton fans, of course. I know, MD. Interesting. Okay. Oh, no scenes with Zendaya? You mean in terms of Yaren in that Dune? I don't know. Didn't see that one. I mean, I like sci-fi, but I was never hardcore pulled into Dune. Not even with Zendaya there. I like Timothy Chalamet as well, but I think he'll be interesting in this one that he's playing, the musician from the 60s, Bob Dylan. That'll be he'll probably get nominated for that, I bet. All right. Well, you guys, I'm going to get going on ending this because we've been on here for 2 hours and 47 minutes. All right. Well, I love and appreciate all of you for showing up. I hope you've enjoyed this live. I'm a newbie, so I'm learning all the bells and whistles in the beginning. So I don't know. Do people edit their lives? I have no idea. Or they just stick it up there and it's there what it is. Maybe that's just the case. You can pop in and find the stuff, I guess. And I have no idea if it records the chat either. So I have no idea what got recorded. So anyway, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And I think everything does record, but if for any reason it didn't record, we'll have the audio and I can always put up the charts flowing through on a timeline of a video that I can overlay it to in case it didn't record, just in case, right? All right, so have a great rest of your weekend. Love you all and have a great, I guess it was Sunday, so great rest of your week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.